going to show you how to make the holly to go on the top of your embroidered hoop. So to do this, you're going to need your felt and your freezer paper. So this is freezer paper and it is shiny on one side. That's the side that you iron onto your felt. So to start off with, cut roughly around the templates and then lay them onto your felt. So what I've done here, you can see I've cut around roughly. I've put my holly onto one side. Now I've bunched it up to one side to use the smallest amount of felt, because if you should make any mistakes with your cutting out or with your stitching, you've still got enough space here to do at least 2 more leaves. And you can reuse this paper once you've cut it out. So once you've ironed it on, just with a sharp pair of scissors, you're going to cut the felt out. Now, the reason that you use freezer paper is it makes it much easier to cut the design out. Just having the guide actually stuck on there, there's no having to trace around it, and it just makes it easier to cut the fabric. So this time, this is why you don't cut around it exactly before you iron it on. You just cut around roughly and then you use the exact lines when you're cutting it out of the felt. And then, as I said, this just peels off, she says. It's stuck really quite well. Peels off, there we go. And you have a nice leaf there, but this can be used again. So should you need to, on the spare felt that you've got left over, you can iron that on again, it will stick again and you can cut around it. So what you need to do is you need to cut out your 2 leaves out of the lighter green and then a berry. You can do more than 1 berry if you want, there's plenty of felt there. It's up to you. Okay, so the next thing you need to do is to mark your stitch lines onto your holly leaves. Now to do this you could use a fabric pen. Here I have one which is air erasable at one end and water erasable at the other, or you could get a tailor's chalk pencil. I also have just used a normal pencil and you can still see the lines. So I have threaded up my needle with 3 strands of the green cotton, and I'm going to stitch my embroidery along the central line and then some branches off it. Now to do this you could use backstitch, which is what I've done in the instruction booklet, or you could use that stem stitch which I showed you in the video for how to stitch the reindeer's antlers, or just a simple running stitch if that's what you would like to do. I'm going to show you a different stitch which you could use, which is called whipped running stitch. There are details of this in the embroidery stitch guide which I included in your kit. So to do the whipped running stitch, you're just going to do a line of normal running stitch with a small gap in between. Now the advantage of the whipped running stitch means that if your stitches go a little bit off piece, shall we say, you can cover it up by entwining them all together. It's also quite good if you're not very good at keeping consistent sized stitches. If the gaps between your stitches and the lengths of your stitches are a little bit dodgy, then the whipped running stitch is a really good one for you. So here I have got a line of running stitch, and actually that looks quite nice just as it is. You could just do a couple of branches off or just leave it like that, it's up to you. But to do the whipped, I'm going to come back up again, very close to where I just went back down at the end of the line. And then I'm going to turn my needle over so I'm using the eye of the needle. Zoom in a little bit so you can see better. And I'm going to push the eye of the needle underneath. I'm not going through the fabric, I'm just going underneath that stitch. and pulling through, and then it's a bit like weaving. So I'm going to do the same with the next stitch. The trick with this though is to make sure, oops, it's got caught around the point of my holly, is to make sure that you are always going under the stitches from the same side. If I decided to go that way, I would get a different effect. It's called interlaced running stitch, and it's very pretty, but it's not what we want to use right now. So as you can see, as you go along and do the stitches, it kind of pulls them all together, joins them all together in a nice straight line, which is good for covering up unusual stitch lengths or dodgy stitching, and just gives a nice raised effect. And then at the end, I'm just going to go take my thread through to the back right at the end of the line, like so. And then I'm just going to do some branches off to the side, and then I'll show you how to finish off the holly. So now that I have stitched the details onto my leaves, I'm going to attach it to the darker green felt before adding on my berry. I have threaded up my needle with just one strand of green cotton for this, and I'm going to just lay the leaves where I'd like to position them, making sure that they're quite close in the middle, because when you put the berry on, you're going to cut around the outside, so it's all in one piece. So you don't want them completely separate. That won't make it very stable. So they don't need to be completely overlapping. You can have a gap in between, but quite close together. So I am happy with that I've got enough space around it. So I'll just take that one off for now. And I am going to bring my needle up from the back. Zoom in a bit closer. See what I'm doing. So I'm bringing my needle up from the back, and I'm just going to go into the dark felt with the tip of my needle and take up a tiny bit of the fabric. Now the felt is reasonably thick, and I'm not actually going all the way through, so I'm kind of just going through the layer of the felt. I'm then going to bring my needle up into the leaf as well. So I'm going to do that again. There's a bit of cotton there anyway. So I'm going to take a little pinch of the dark green and go up into the light green. And that is going to make for me a tiny little stitch there. And now my my thread should be moved along a little bit. So go again, take a pinch of the green. It's really difficult to see in this light. Problems with recording during this time of year. So you're just going to go along the edge. Tiny little stitches. Now it doesn't have to be invisible stitches. It doesn't matter if you can see your stitches. It's a hand stitched felt ornament, so it's not going to be a surprise to people to see your stitches. It's just nice to keep them quite neat and small along the edge. I'm going to repeat that all the way around, just taking a little pinch of the green, being careful not to go through to the back. It doesn't matter if you do go through to the back, it just looks neater if you don't. I don't know where that bit of white thread's come from. Yeah, so you're basically hiding your stitches inside the felt and underneath that top green leaf. You can see stitches barely visible, and I'm just going to continue that all the way around, and then with my second leaf. Okay, so I have stitched on my leaves, and then I've also popped on the berry there and just stitched around it just like I did with the leaves. You could put more than one berry on if you want. There's plenty of red felt there. I just like the look of one. So the next thing to do is with a sharp pair of scissors to just cut around the holly. So you want to leave about 1/2 centimetre, kind of around the outside of your holly shapes. And you could draw this if you wanted to with either a fabric pen or a pencil, but I'm just going to eyeball it using the outline of the light green leaf as my guide. You do need a nice sharp pair of scissors for this, and preferably small ones. Big scissors are going to make this trickier to do. Trying to get those nice sharp points. Tidy up the edges a little bit. Okay, it's a bit too big in the middle there. Can't see the gap where they join. There we go. I might just take a little bit off around the bottom here. It's a bit thick. My scissors aren't as sharp as I thought they were. And there we have it, your finished holly, which you can stick to the top of the bauble. So once your stick and stitch has dried, your fabric is ready, then we can put the hoop together.